think it was in the 1 percentile where I had to pay that up. That's when I really realized that it just didn't make sense to be going to school right now. If there was a opportunity that was kind of ticking, that I could chase. Right. So at that time, it was a pretty easy decision to leave. I wanted to leave much earlier, but I think, it really did teach me the value of time. And maybe if I dropped out a little bit earlier, I wouldn't have been as disciplined or ready to be able to do things the way it's supposed to be done when you drop out. So I guess everything does happen for a reason. But in my case, I felt like in class, I was not really paying attention. I wasn't very interested in the stuff they were teaching. And I also believed that a lot of the concepts in like marketing especially were very outdated. I think I failed the marketing exam. Only one slide was talking about like social media, and YouTube wasn't even considered. And I just felt like this was stuff from like 10 years ago. And I already had real world experience and kind of saw things differently than the book was trying to teach it. I think a lot of times university it does brainwash you into thinking it's the right way or the certain way. And I feel like exploring it for yourself is the best way to learn. So personally, I never had good grades, but I was decent at stuff that I really focused on. So it just wasn't for me. I could see why it's useful for people, but I think the only class I actually learned something could have been accounting. It's very black and white, and it doesn't change your balance sheet stuff. Right. After 3 years, I still couldn't balance a balance sheet, but I still passed somehow. I think that's the only area where I really learned stuff. And eventually when I transitioned into the business a couple weeks after dropping out and meeting with the accountant and talking about how to structure my company, it did make it a little bit easier to understand what they were trying to explain to me. But again, you can learn that stuff online if you really wanted to, online courses. I just felt like it didn't make much sense to pay a business to teach you how to run a business. A lot of times it's just like the amount of course content is stuff that you could do at your own pace, at least at the university that I went to, but then all the group stuff and the orientation and like the discussions that they do group by group, I just felt like it was just a lot of housekeeping and stuff in between that was not the meat of the content that they were trying to teach you. Right. And that they make you do like the preliminary courses in the first couple years and also like all these electives to kind of filter you out the first couple years and also make some money off of the class tuition. But you were able to take any class you want to be able to get into the business program, aside from a few prerequisites, which I failed a couple of them here and there. But yeah, I was taking like photography.
Was there anything that you pulled from learning in there that you were able to apply to your business or helped you maybe see things a little bit differently?
I think most of it was indirect knowledge. And that's the same with like my parents making me learn the piano and Chinese. Like I can't tell you what key is what on the piano nowadays. And when it comes to speaking Chinese, I don't love to speak it either. Those are things that maybe trained the brain a little bit, made me more committed to time and memorization and maybe hand-eye coordination. I don't know, but it's university wise, I didn't feel like I was getting much value, but it was also my own fault. I was just so focused on something else that I cared about a lot more that I wasn't really seeing the value or appreciating the value of it at its time. I just felt like it was something that was pulling me back from what I really wanted to do and what I thought I was much better at / had
looking back now, was there anything that you'd change about the way maybe you saw university as far as the value? Like maybe your look on the negativity in your life that university was, would having a different mindset back then have changed anything?
Yes, but at the same time, I think a lot of times when you're trying to weigh the positives and negatives of dropping out, it usually does lean a certain direction. And a lot of times it's to stay and like it opens your doors in the future. It's just something that you always have. But I think it was a unique situation because, I mean, it sounds bad when you say you're dropping out to make YouTube videos. It sounds really stupid. I totally agree with that. But I think after being in the industry for that long, I just saw like everything that I'd built up and worked on to that point that I felt like I should have gone full time with it. So the way I saw it was that it was a unique case where it only made sense to leave.
That's where like looking back for me, university may have been a point of value only for the connections that you can gain through it. You got people that want to be in business and have a drive to build something. Was there anybody that you met while you were at university that you may still talk to today, or have you seen them go on to accomplish anything?
I think it's too early to tell. Even in high school, aside from a few people
at this point, is
yeah, it is too early. I mean, my full time is from the program, but I also was not very social in school. I was just like in and out, and I was only there if I had to be. We also did have a few good guest speakers: Don Matrick, Jeff Mallett, Yahoo, and Microsoft guys. So and also Felix Butterfield or Stuart Butterfield. There was good guest speakers, but I feel like in terms of connections, it does seem like, aside from people you meet to start companies and stuff, people are at a different stage. In university, you're spending the 4 years and then you're starting your career. Whereas I had already been in the industry for 6-7 years, and I was kind of just like there to be there. So yeah, I think it just made sense to leave because I wasn't seeing the value in it. And obviously the connections that I had from the tech industry from being in it for that many years, it only made sense to make the most out of those connections, and by traveling and meeting in person, attending events and everything, as opposed to the connections that I was gaining out of university, at least right now. I think it could change in the future. But yeah, I think leaving school really gave us the opportunity to travel, meet the brands, and we noticed the company also grew much faster than before.
How did you, so once you, like the second you left university, how did you start adding more time into your business?
The first 2 weeks, I actually was less productive because it's kind of weird to have all that newfound time. Starting YouTube in middle school and going into high school, I was just kind of sitting around watching TV for the first couple of weeks. And then I was like, okay, I got to make my first video now after dropping out. I think it's just, yeah, you got to stay honest with yourself. And I was a little bit worried when I wasn't doing anything for the first couple of weeks after university, but then it just kind of clicks and you're like, okay, let's get to action. Let's interview these people. Let's like hire this. Let's tie up the business side. Like I made a promise that I was going to my parents that I was going to make the most out of it. So yeah, it ended up kind of going to plan. You got to have a plan. At the end of the day, sometimes it's good to just go into it, kind of like this podcast. But for a big decision like that, when you're in your fourth year, especially, you got to have like some sort of plan that jumps into action. So yeah, ever since then, it's been a lot of traveling up until the past couple months. About 50 flights in the first year, 100 in the second year, just nonstop flying around. Lots of videos, still a lot of improvement to do. Growth has been pretty steady. And also like renovating the place last year was something that I wouldn't have been able to do during school. And I think that was now it's starting to look like a great decision because stuck at home, at least everything's the way that I like it to look. And yeah, and I think the company has performed to expectation. I think since dropout, it's generated 7 figures, which I couldn't have imagined before. But yeah, I think looking back at it 2 years, it was a good decision, but then now it's another decision to make. Classes have gone online, which has never happened before in history. It's probably the only time it's going to happen, unless we have a second wave. So I've been in class for 4 days and I still feel like it's as much of a waste of time / distraction as it was before.